Have you ever felt the silent ache of holding on to someone who no longer holds you back? That heavy moment when love itself turns into a weight, pressing on your chest instead of lifting you higher. You wake up and realize that what once felt like safety now feels like a cage, and the very person who once gave you light now leaves you searching for it alone. This is the quiet heartbreak few ever put into words. Not the drama of betrayal, not the storm of anger, but the slow, invisible unraveling of your soul when you realize you can love deeply and still not be meant to stay. You try to explain it to yourself. You replay the memories, the laughter, the moments that once made everything feel alive. And yet, no matter how much you stretch your heart, it feels like pouring water into a vessel that leaks. You keep giving, hoping one day it will be enough, and yet deep down, you know, it will never be received the way you give it. Moving on isn't just about letting someone go. It's about facing that sacred threshold where your soul whispers, enough. It's the moment you stop waiting for their call, stop bending your truth just to keep the peace, stop begging your own heart to survive on crumbs. It's the decision to rise, not because you stopped loving, but because you finally remembered to love yourself more. In this series, we'll walk together through the hidden stages of letting go. You'll see that moving on isn't an ending, it's a rebirth. You'll understand why release is not weakness but liberation, and how every tear you shed becomes a seed for your own healing. By the end, you won't see moving on as losing someone. You'll see it as returning home to yourself, to the wholeness that was always there, waiting for you under the ache. So if your heart is heavy, if your nights feel endless, if you're still holding on to someone who no longer holds you, stay with me. This message will be the hand you didn't know you needed. And when you're ready, write in the comments, "I choose my healing." Let that be your first step into freedom. There comes a moment, quiet but undeniable, when the truth settles into your chest. Love, as powerful as it is, cannot hold together what was never meant to stay whole. It feels almost cruel, how something so sacred, so beautiful, can still fall short against silence, distance, or the lack of mutual effort. You keep asking yourself, if I love them this much, shouldn't that be enough? But real love is not a one-way current. It is not you carrying both the flame and the fuel. For too long, you may have mistaken your patience for destiny, your endurance for proof that it was worth holding on. Yet love without balance begins to drain instead of nourish. It asks you to shrink so the other can grow, to wait while they decide, to bend until you no longer recognize yourself. And when that realization arrives, it doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in silence, in the unanswered text, in the way your laughter no longer feels safe with them, in the dull ache of conversations that used to feel like home, but now echo hollow. Slowly, you begin to understand. You are not breaking because love has ended. You are breaking because you kept carrying what wasn't being carried with you. This is not about blaming them. It is about awakening to the truth that your soul deserves reciprocity. That love is not meant to strip you of yourself, but return you more fully to who you are. And if it costs you your peace, if it silences your joy, if it leaves you questioning your worth, it is no longer love, it is a lesson. In this moment, the path to moving on quietly opens before you. Not through bitterness, not through shutting your heart down, but through choosing yourself. Through saying, I will no longer confuse sacrifice with devotion. I will no longer confuse waiting with love. This is where the healing begins, not in forgetting them, but in remembering you. The hardest part of moving on is not the goodbye, it's the silence that follows. The quiet mornings when their name no longer lights up your phone. The evenings when you reach for them out of habit, only to find an empty space where their energy once lived. It feels as if the air itself has thinned, and suddenly the world is missing a color you didn't know you relied on. At first, you resist it. You distract yourself, fill your days with noise, with people, with anything that keeps you from noticing the echo of what's gone. But silence has a way of finding you. In the middle of a crowded room, in the pauses between conversations, in the stillness of night, it rises like a tide. And you wonder if you'll ever feel whole without them. But here's the truth. This absence is not here to break you. It is here to teach you. It shows you where you've been leaning too much, where you've given away your power, where you've mistaken their presence for your completeness. Yes, it hurts. It hurts in ways words can't always carry. But within that ache is a sacred invitation to sit with yourself, to listen to the parts of you that you once silenced just to keep them close. Absence doesn't have to be a void. It can be a mirror that reflects not what you've lost, but what still remains within you. Your laughter, your softness, your resilience, your capacity to love, they were never theirs to take. They are yours, and they are waiting for you to reclaim them. So when the silence feels unbearable, let it become your teacher. Let it remind you that healing is not about rushing to fill the gap, but about learning to breathe in it. With each breath, you are not just surviving their absence. You are creating space for your own presence to return. And one day, you'll notice the quiet no longer hurts. It simply is. A soft canvas where new beginnings will be painted. There is a sacred moment in every journey of letting go. It doesn't arrive with a shout, but with a whisper. One morning, you wake up, and the heaviness doesn't feel quite the same. The silence that once pierced your chest now simply rests beside you, softer, almost familiar. And somewhere deep within, you feel it, a quiet shift. This is the turning point. The moment when your soul begins to rise from the ashes of attachment and remember itself. For so long, you defined your joy by their presence, your worth by their attention. But slowly, like a seed breaking through soil, you start to notice the light of your own being. You catch yourself smiling, not because of them, but because of you. You rediscover songs you once loved before they came into your life. You remember hobbies you left behind, dreams you shelved, truths you silenced. The parts of you that had been sleeping begin to stir, and for the first time in a long time, you realize you are not lost. You are still here. This turning point doesn't erase the love you felt. It honors it, but it also reveals something deeper. That love, even when shared, must begin with you. That to move on is not to deny what was real, but to stop abandoning yourself in the name of holding on. And so, piece by piece, you return. Not with anger, not with vengeance, but with reverence for your own becoming. You begin to understand that moving on is not about closing a chapter in bitterness. It's about stepping into the next one in truth. This is the moment your healing gathers momentum. When you no longer ask, "How do I let them go?" but instead whisper, "How can I hold myself better?" And in that shift, the chains begin to fall. As you step deeper into your healing, something remarkable begins to happen. The fragments of yourself that once felt scattered slowly start to align. At first, it feels subtle, a little more clarity in your thoughts, a little more lightness in your chest. But with time, the shift grows undeniable. Your body begins to respond first. Where there was once heaviness, exhaustion, or restlessness, a new vitality awakens. You start taking walks, stretching, moving in ways that remind you of your aliveness. Not to distract yourself, but to reconnect with the vessel that has carried you through every heartbreak and every triumph. Your body whispers, "I am still here. I will carry you forward." Then your mind softens. The endless cycle of replaying memories, the what-ifs, the constant analysis, they begin to quiet. Thoughts that once circled endlessly around them now make space for you. Ideas return, creativity stirs, focus sharpens. What felt like fog clears, and you see not only what you've survived, but also what you're capable of building. And finally, your spirit rises. The ache that once felt like emptiness begins to glow with possibility. You feel connected to something larger, something timeless. The awareness that love is not scarce, that joy is not gone, that your story is far from over. Your soul remembers its wholeness, its resilience, its infinite capacity to expand. This alignment doesn't mean you no longer miss them. It means you no longer abandon yourself in that missing. You honor the love you once gave, but you no longer let it consume you. You reclaim your center. You rise not by erasing what was, but by realigning with what has always been yours. Your body's strength, your mind's clarity, your spirit's radiance. And in this harmony, you begin to glow differently, not because someone sees you, but because you finally see yourself. One of the deepest fears when moving on is believing that letting go means the love was wasted. You look back at the memories, the moments that felt eternal, and you wonder, was it all for nothing? But here is the truth your soul longs to remember. Love never dies. It transforms. What you shared with them was real. The laughter, the closeness, the nights where time seemed to stand still, all of it mattered. But love is not meant to chain you to the past. Its purpose is to expand you, to open you, to teach you. Sometimes the lesson comes through staying, and sometimes it comes through release. Letting go does not erase the love. It refines it. It takes what was heavy, tangled, or unfinished, and distills it into wisdom. You begin to see that the love you gave did not disappear. It lives on in you. It lives in your compassion, in your depth, in your ability to feel so deeply even when it hurts. This is the sacred evolution of love. It moves from being something you shared with one person into something that becomes part of your essence. You no longer carry it as longing. You carry it as growth. You no longer ache for what could have been. You rise with what has always been. Your capacity to love without losing yourself. And so, moving on is not the end of love. It is its highest expression. It is saying, what we shared was beautiful, but my soul is ready for more. More peace, more alignment, more truth. It is remembering that love is never meant to shrink you. It is meant to awaken you. When you understand this, you no longer see goodbye as failure. You see it as transformation. You see yourself not as someone who lost, but as someone who has expanded into a greater version of love, one that begins and ends with you. There comes a moment when the balance shifts. For weeks, maybe months, your thoughts were pulled toward them like a tide you couldn't resist. Every silence felt sharp. Every memory reopened the ache. But then, without fanfare, you realize your focus has changed. You are no longer waiting for their call, no longer checking their shadow in every corner of your life. Instead, you begin choosing yourself. This is one of the most empowering moments of moving on. It doesn't always feel triumphant at first. It feels gentle, almost quiet. You start saying no to what drains you. You stop apologizing for your needs. You begin honoring the small rituals that bring you back to life. Your morning coffee, your evening walk, the songs that stir your spirit. Piece by piece, you rebuild your rhythm. And in that rhythm, you discover strength you forgot you had. You see that you are capable of standing on your own, not in bitterness, but in wholeness. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop loving them. It means you stop abandoning yourself in the name of that love. It means you remember that your worth is not defined by their presence or absence. This choice becomes a turning of the key. Suddenly, the door that once felt locked begins to open. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. And though their memory may still pass through your mind, it no longer holds power over you. You are no longer bound by longing. You are fueled by self-respect. Choosing yourself is not an act of defiance. It is an act of devotion. It is declaring, I will no longer give my soul away to be half-loved. I will honor the fullness of who I am, even if it means walking alone for a while. And in that declaration, you step into a new kind of freedom, one where love is no longer a chain, but a choice you will never again make at the cost of yourself. Healing doesn't always announce itself with loud victories. More often, it arrives quietly, like dawn after the longest night. You catch yourself laughing again, not because of anyone else, but because life itself surprises you with its sweetness. You notice beauty in places you had overlooked, the way sunlight dances on your floor, the warmth of a stranger's smile, the comfort of your own company. This is your rebirth. It doesn't erase the past, but it transforms how you carry it. What once felt like a wound now begins to feel like wisdom. The ache that kept you awake at night softens into gratitude for what you learned, for how you grew, for the strength that only heartbreak could awaken in you. Your glow returns, but it is different now. It is not the glow of someone waiting to be chosen, not the radiance you once poured into another just to feel seen. This is a glow that rises from within, untouchable, steady, sovereign. It is the light of someone who has walked through darkness and returned with fire in their eyes. People around you will notice it. They may say you've changed, that there's something different about you. And they'll be right. Because your energy no longer seeks approval, it radiates from self-recognition. You don't chase love anymore. You embody it. This quiet rebirth is not about forgetting them. It's about remembering you. Remembering the version of yourself that existed before you dimmed your light. And even more, discovering the version of yourself that could only be born through letting go. So when you feel that gentle warmth within, that unexplainable peace, know this: you have not lost. You have become. And in this becoming, you are not just moving on, you are rising. Once the fog of heartbreak begins to clear, something beautiful happens. Your definition of love transforms. What once felt like clinging now feels like clarity. What once seemed like sacrifice now reveals itself as self-abandonment. You begin to see love not as something you beg for, but as something that flows when two souls meet in truth. This new vision doesn't come overnight. It grows slowly, like a seed watered by your healing. You look back at the way you used to give, unconditionally, endlessly, even when it left you empty, and you honor that version of yourself. She was not weak, she was brave. But now you understand. True love is not about losing yourself to keep someone else. It is about standing fully in who you are and allowing another to meet you there. You begin to see the difference between love and attachment. Love expands you. Attachment confines you. Love inspires growth. Attachment feeds fear. Love is reciprocal, flowing both ways. Attachment is one-sided, draining the very life from you. With this clarity, you vow never to confuse the two again. And with this new vision, your heart doesn't close, it opens wider. Wider to the kind of love that honors you. Wider to the kind of connection that feels like partnership instead of pursuit. Wider to the truth that the love you once thought you lost was simply preparing you for the love that will align with who you've become. Moving on doesn't make you cynical. It makes you wise. It teaches you that love is not scarce, that your heart is not broken beyond repair, that what you carry forward is not emptiness but depth. You now understand that the love you give is sacred, and it deserves to be met with the same sacredness in return. This is how moving on changes you. It shifts you from seeking love as validation to embodying love as truth. And once you carry that truth, you will never settle for less again. There comes a day when the weight finally lifts. You don't know exactly when it happens, It's not marked by fireworks or some dramatic gesture. It arrives quietly, like a soft exhale you didn't realize you were holding. You wake up, and for the first time in a long time, their memory no longer feels like an anchor. It feels like a closed chapter. This is the peace of full release. It doesn't mean you forget them. It doesn't mean the love was meaningless. It means you've stopped carrying it as a burden. The story you once replayed endlessly has found its ending, and you no longer need to write yourself into it. At first, this peace might feel strange, almost foreign. After all, your heart has lived in the rhythm of longing for so long. But as you sit with it, you realize this peace is freedom. It is the space you once begged for, now returned to you. It is the silence no longer filled with ache, but with possibility. And in that space, you begin to dream again. You think of your future not in terms of what you've lost, but in terms of what is yet to come. You no longer measure your worth by who stays or who leaves. You no longer see yourself through the lens of heartbreak. You stand as someone who has loved deeply, released bravely, and healed fully. This release is not about them. It is about you, about honoring your own path, your own growth, your own becoming. It is the sacred closing of a door, not with resentment, but with gratitude for the lessons, for the love, for the way it shaped you. And with that gratitude, you walk forward lighter. The peace of full release is the final gift of moving on. It is where pain turns into wisdom, memory turns into strength, and endings turn into beginnings. So often we believe that moving on is about forgetting, erasing, or shutting down the heart. But the truth is far more tender and far more powerful. Moving on is not about losing them. It's about finding you. Every tear you cried, every night you ached, every moment you questioned your worth, it was never wasted. It was a passage, a sacred initiation that brought you face to face with the deepest parts of yourself. And in walking through it, you didn't just survive, you transformed. What once felt like silence became your teacher. What once felt like emptiness became your space to grow. And what once felt like the end revealed itself as a beginning. You are no longer the person who begged for crumbs, who waited for love that never arrived. You are the one who chose herself, the one who remembered her worth, the one who rose. This journey has shown you that love is not meant to make you smaller. It is meant to help you expand. That letting go is not failure, it is freedom. That the heart, no matter how many times it breaks, is infinitely capable of healing, of opening again, of glowing brighter than before. And so here you stand, not defined by who you lost, but by who you became in the process. Stronger, softer, wiser, whole. If your heart resonates with these words, let this be your affirmation. I am not what I lost. I am what I found within myself. Type it in the comments. Let it anchor into your spirit. Let it be the truth you carry forward. Because your story is not one of endings, it is one of rebirth. And remember, the love you were searching for was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting to be remembered. This is your sacred return. This is your freedom. This is your glow.